Welcome to the Better Business, Better Life podcast. Terry DuPont is the founder of DuPont Advisory Group, a group dedicated to providing comprehensive services to successful business owners, medical, and other professionals. Terry has top-of-the-table status in the prestigious International Million-Dollar Roundtable, placing him among the top 0.1% of all professional financial advisors in the world. Terry's philosophy is, I've learned that I grow and prosper more by focusing on the success of others, rather than fretting over my own. Terry is a certified financial professional with the Institute of Financial Wellness, an advisor for the Power of Zero Taxes in Retirement, chartered retirement plans specialist, certified wealth preservation planner, and certified philanthropic developer. On the podcast, Terry brings together experts in their field who have succeeded in building their business to share their secrets with you. And now, here's your host, Terry DuPont.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Better Business, Better Life, Building on Your Success. And I'm your host, Terry DuPont. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Michele Raia. Michele is an attorney licensed in Ohio and lives in the Cleveland area. She's been providing personalized and cost-effective legal services to individuals and companies for more than 36 years now. Her legal practice is focused on estate planning, probate, business, employment, and real estate matters. In the estate planning area, Michele is adept to helping clients create estate plans that reduce the need for probate and organize their affairs to make it easier for their families. Michele is so passionate about helping people with their estate affairs in order that what she's done is she's recently created and launched an easy to follow informational mini course on the basics of estate planning so that she could reach and teach these important topics to people throughout the United States, not just our clients in Ohio. So, Michele, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you on. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. We're glad to have you. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Michele, and why you started your career?
Sure. So I worked and went to school at night, law school at night. And so I initially, a lot of people don't realize that when you become a lawyer, they don't actually teach you how to be a lawyer in law school. They teach you how to think like a lawyer. And so a lot of times you end up going into your practice based on where you land your first couple jobs. So my first job was with a small general practice firm. And when they found out what a law clerk could do for $6 an hour, they let me do a lot. And so I wasn't behind the scenes just researching. I actually was upfront with the clients and helping to handle matters. So that was an excellent experience and the way I kind of got my general practice background. And then I had the opportunity to go in my own practice, which I did until I was recruited to be in the law department of a local bank, regional bank. And I was in that employment law department for a couple of years. I was promoted to regional general counsel for Southern Ohio. And that was also an excellent opportunity because I was on the management team and I provided legal advice for all the different departments across all the departments. And then, but I wanted to move back to Cleveland. So I moved back to Cleveland, went with the mid-sized firm until I can reestablish my practice again. And so I did, and I was fortunate to get hired by a Fortune 500 company where I helped to advise on a day-to-day basis their HR management team. And then I also, over the years, have been hired by many smaller family-owned companies who want kind of an outside, quote unquote, general counsel that they could call whenever they need. So that's really been a big piece of my practice. Gotcha. So I started as general practitioner, but over the years, because of, all the laws, it's hard to keep up on everything. And so I've narrowed my practice to what you noted, which is estate planning, probate, business, employment, and real estate.
Okay, awesome. What has been the biggest challenge you have faced thus far?
I would say it would be probably having to I would like to clone myself because there's never enough time in the day. And my clients have become used to, I actually handle every single matter, every single client. I don't have somebody else that works for me. And so as a result, they've gotten used to relying on me and calling me at all hours of the day. We've oftentimes they're in the same boat as I am with small kids and trying to get everything done. We have 11 o'clock conference calls. So they're used to that. And the problem is that means I work a lot of hours, and as a result, I can't really switch off work when I'm with family. So, but it's worked for 36 years. So
Don't fix it if it's not broken, right?
exactly.
How did you become an expert, per se, in the estate planning and the business planning, et cetera?
Well, I think it just evolved over time because, estate planning is something that everybody needs. So, you might have friends and family who don't have a personal injury case, for example, but almost everybody needs estate planning. So over the years, I have a lot of clients who have come to me for that. And one of the things that I have developed is that I don't just draft the documents. I mean, it's a full-blown process with my clients. I educate them on the whole estate planning. I educate them on probate versus non-probate. I make sure that they understand what the options are as far as what they can do to put their plan in the right order, and I listen to what they really need because some want a trust and some don't. And some, their main priority is to avoid probate and others it is not. And so I actually, really work with them first on that. And one of the things that I think I do a little differently than some attorneys is I actually do an asset assessment with them. I actually, say, okay, I actually created a fillable worksheet where they can put each asset that they own and how it's currently titled. And then we go through that and I help them to figure out, do they want it to avoid probate? And if so, let's title it a different way. And I'll explain that in a second. And the nice thing about that worksheet is, first of all, it forces them to go look at their documents, right? A lot of times people haven't looked at their life insurance in years and they still have their parents on it. Or they haven't really looked at their bank statements to see how it's actually titled, or they thought their house deed was joint and survivor, and meanwhile it was not. It was in tenants in common. So that's always a good exercise, and people really appreciate that.
Yeah,
And
I have to tell you, I've been in this business, in my business, 45 years now, and I've talked to a lot of attorneys about estate planning with clients, et cetera, et cetera. And what you just mentioned is not done by all of them.
I know, and I am so surprised. And I had a client the other day call me, and the mother had passed, and she had used an investment person and a lawyer for her estate planning, and she had had this investment account for like 30 years, and no beneficiary was listed. And I'm like, I just don't understand how that could happen.
But yet the advisor was involved in the estate planning process.
And the lawyer, yes, exactly. So anyhow, I do really feel like that's something different that I do, and that actually is part of the mini course that I created as well, so that it's a fillable form that people can download and then do their own assessment. And one of the things that people don't realize is that the will is going to say who you want your assets to go to, but if you put your assets in what's called non-probate titling, where with you either have a joint owner or a beneficiary or a transfer on death beneficiary, or it's in a trust, then it doesn't go through probate. So your will really becomes irrelevant with regard to that asset. And
Right.
so a lot of people who want to avoid probate, and maybe they don't have the significant assets or special reasons to have a trust, then the best way to avoid probate is to put all your assets in a non-probate title. So have either a joint owner or a beneficiary on it. I always tell people the key is to die with nothing in your name alone, right? Like you have no cards in your hand when you die. So if you do that, then you never actually have to even go through probate. And then you avoid the cost and expense of having to go through that process.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. I can tell, it's evident that you have a passion for helping people organize their estate affairs. as seen or obvious by the creation of the mini course that you've been talking about on basic estate planning. What inspired you to develop this course, and what specific topics that we might not have talked about already does it cover to make estate planning more accessible?
So the main reason I created it was well, first of all, I've been looking in the online space for years. Since I can't clone myself, I've been looking for other ways to reach more people rather than one-on-one, which is what us lawyers do, right? And so I have been looking in the online space for years on creating a course. And actually, probably 15 years ago, I had considered making a course on how to start a business. But that course is pretty extensive and has a lot of legs. And so as I was investigating making courses, I realized, my probate practice, my estate planning practice, I say the same thing every time, right? I say all the same things. And really, it cuts across all states. Every state is a little different in some of their forms and procedures, and even every court has their own local procedures. But as a general rule, the basic concepts of estate planning and avoiding probate and not avoiding probate and non-probate assets and probate assets and a will and a trust and all of those are pretty much the same across the United States. And so I thought to myself, and I had so many people asking me the same question: how can I avoid probate? Or what do I need to have in place? And do I need a healthcare power of attorney? And all those same questions. And so I decided maybe it would be best to create this mini course so people who either are not in Ohio and don't hire me for this, or who maybe are just not even sure where to start. A lot of people are afraid to even go to a lawyer because they don't even know what to ask, or they don't even know what kind of lawyer to get, which is that's hard in and of itself. They say, oh, my cousin is a PI lawyer, but a personal injury lawyer is maybe not going to know how to do a will. So that's when I decided that I could reach so many more people. And the course is reasonably priced so that it's affordable for everybody. And people can take the course, and then they are set up for when they then go to hire an attorney to actually do the documents. But in the meantime, they can do the titling and get some of the things done even on their own without hiring an attorney.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Through all of this, the different roles you played in your career, what's something you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
I would say what I've done here, which is I wish I had known that I didn't have to just do one-on-one with clients, that there were other avenues to create more income, of course, but also just to reach more people. And when you, especially as a solo practitioner, you're so in the trenches getting the work done that you don't realize that there are other avenues. And so I'm actually at the end of my career, or starting to get to the end of my career, and I guess I finally figured it out, right? So but I'm hoping to do more of these kind of mini courses, so that I could, I have a wealth of information on business, on real estate, on employment law, and again, there aren't that many opportunities for people to just get some general information. Like in the mini course, for example, the first part is all about just generally what estate planning is and defining some of the terms. And then the second part is that assessment that I told you about. And then the third part is about all the documents. Like it explains, well, what is a living will? What is a healthcare power of attorney? What's a general power of attorney? Why do I need those things? And then it also has, some forms that like a list of what you should keep in your safe deposit box. And then things like, well, you should probably make a binder for your heirs to know, well, how do you pay your bills? Do you pay them regularly? Do you pay them online? Do you pay them through a credit card? There are all those things just to even just get your affairs in order. And then the third piece is, how do I hire a lawyer? Who do I go? Where can I look for them? Should I go to the bar association? Should I look in the phone book? Not phone book. There's no phone book. Online. So it's really an all-encompassing kind of a big picture that and that's what I'm hoping to do with some of the other topics as well, like how to buy and sell a piece of property, or how to start your business, or what do I do when I hire new employees, that kind of stuff.
Okay, awesome. What is something that you either share or try to share with each and every client or prospective client that you interact with?
Well, for my business clients, I share that they should call me before a problem happens as opposed to later, because it is usually cheaper and easier to be proactive rather than reactive. For my estate planning clients, I tell them, it's never too early or too late to start. I mean, it doesn't, people think it's only for older people, and that's not true. And even younger people, they don't realize, my daughter, who is in her 20s, she was looking at my mini course and she said, I didn't realize I have an estate. I mean, if you have a car or a house or a 401k, you have an estate. And it doesn't matter if your estate is 50,000 or 500,000, it's the same process. And if you don't have beneficiaries on your assets, I'm still going to probate your estate, whether you're 100,000 or 500,000. And so it's never too early or too late to do it. You just need to get it done. It gives you peace of mind and it helps your family as well. And then the thing that I give all my clients, or at least everybody that asks me, is I say, you know what? Not every lawyer is the same. You need to find a lawyer that you feel comfortable with, that you feel you can trust, that when you ask questions, you get the answers back and not maybe a lot of legal mumbo jumbo that you don't understand. And it's a relationship, so you need to make sure that you are comfortable with that relationship. And what people don't realize is, even if you start with an attorney and you realize he or she is not the right fit, you don't have to stay with them. You can fire the lawyer, right? You might still owe for some of the work that they've done, but you don't have to stay with them. You can fire them and go on to somebody else.
That's good advice all the way around. I like that. Going back to the estate planning, that's a process that involves sensitive and some personal matters for individuals and families. How do you approach building trust and ensuring open communication with your clients to address their unique needs and concerns?
Well, I think, first of all, because I'm approachable and I think most of my clients, first of all of my client base are referrals from other people. So as a result, they already, trust me. And then I explained to them, that it's important for us to have the open communication. First of all, I explained to them it's attorney-client privilege, of course. And so they have that protection. But also, that in order for us to really do the right job, we need to look at everything. You can't hold some things back. And that's one of the reasons why I do that assessment, because again, like you noted, I mean, there's a lot of times when an attorney might have created a document but didn't know that they had this other asset that had no beneficiary on it. And so because I educate them first and I debunk their misconceptions, then I think they're more open to, really working with me and making sure that they get everything done. And then I also recommend that they review with me their plan and their assets and all of that, every 5 years. So that we can make sure that everything's in order. Not everybody does it every 5 years, but I always tell them, if not then at least when you have a change in circumstance, you get married, you get divorced, you move, you retire, you buy a business, you have children, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's important. And I think because I establish a relationship, then they continue to come back to me to ask questions. And I charge a fixed fee, so it's not like they have to worry about the billable hour. And I tell them, listen, if you're going to ask me a quick question, I'm not going to bill you for, a 5-minute question.
Awesome. Staying with the estate planning topic, there might be misconceptions and common pitfalls in the estate planning process for many potential people. What advice do you often find yourself giving to clients, and what are some of the considerations people should keep in mind when planning their estates?
Well, for one is what their end goal is, right? So, I mean, if their end goal is to avoid probate, then that's, the one thing. And a lot of people don't realize, they don't realize that if you have a will, the assets are going to be distributed according to the will. If you have a beneficiary, it's going to get distributed according to the beneficiary. If you have neither, then what happens, it goes into court and it's called intestate succession. I'm sorry, intestate, and that means that the person died without a will. And at that point, the court decides who are the heirs of that person and how it's going to get distributed. Now, and that's called the statute of descent and distribution. It's actually a chart that says, has spouse and children and parents and grandparents and brothers, sisters. Each state is a little different, but as a result, what happens is at that point, they actually first have to figure out who your heirs are, and then they have to find those heirs. And sometimes the heirs have predeceased you. And so it becomes a lot more difficult. So that's the one misconception and kind of the caveat that I tell people all the time is, yeah, you could go ahead and die with none of these documents in place, but it's going to be much more difficult when you have the documents in place, like a will. It's going to be easier, and then you're going to make sure that the assets get distributed according to your wishes. And if you add beneficiaries on certain assets, then you've even cut that part out and gone directly to the beneficiary. Like in a bank account, for example, if you have a transfer on death or a payable on death, all the person does is go to the bank with a death certificate and their social security number, and the bank writes their check and gives them the asset. So that's a lot easier than going through probate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In your extensive legal career, can you share a particularly challenging case or scenario, for that matter, related to estate planning and how you navigated through it and achieve a positive outcome for the client?
Oh, I'm not sure I can point to one particular one, but the ones that are the most difficult are the ones that either did not do any paperwork. And like I said, then now we have to start from scratch and kind of figure out who the heirs are and how it's going to get distributed. And then the other one, I did think of one. The other one I had was where the husband and wife were sure that the husband was going to die first. Now, of course, we don't have a crystal ball. And so they put everything in the wife's name.
Oh,
and so then when the wife died first, who, by the way, was older than the gentleman, and when she died, we had to transfer every single thing, and it was stocks and bonds and accounts, and we had to go through the whole probate process, no beneficiaries on anything. Everything was in her name alone. And so we had to do, it was a 2-year probate just to get everything transferred over. So yeah, that was probably my most challenging.
Yeah, it would have been a lot worse if she had passed at the same time in an accident or something of that nature. That'd been terrible.
Absolutely.
That'd be
But
almost worse than not having a will.
Exactly. Now we do, like in my wills, I actually put a clause that says if for some reason somebody dies within 30 days, then I can bypass that estate and go to the next level. And those are the kind of clauses that a lot of times people don't realize, like when they do kind of an online, or maybe they do their own will, there are certain clauses that each state or has where we can add some clauses to make things a little bit easier. Like, for example, we can add a clause that says, I don't want my personal property appraised, so that they don't have to appraise every single thing in your house, right? So those are the kind of clauses that is what you're going to get when you have an attorney and not just trying to do it on your own.
Yeah. Okay. Michele, how do you define success?
Well, for me personally, the fact that I've been able to have my own practice for so many years and, provided for my family, and to have the flexibility to raise my children, as well as, being able to still provide personalized one-on-one service to my clients. To me, that's a win, and that's a success for me personally. For my clients, when I help a small business get started, which I do a lot of that, it's just so rewarding to have them, get started and then grow and be part of their team and their advisors as they grow, and to really see how that is. And I know it's corny, but I say it all the time, that's what America is about, right? Is the small business. Most of our country is built on small businesses, not the large corporations.
Right.
And then for my estate planning clients, the success is having everything in order so that when they do pass and their children come to me, that they don't have to do much, and that really I just walk them through the few things that need to be done. Because even if you have, like for example, a beneficiary on a life insurance, you still have to file some forms with the life insurance company to get the money transferred. So there are some logistical things, but it's so much easier to help my clients' children go through that. And now I'm actually into second generation. So now I have my clients' children coming to me as well, and I'm setting up their estates as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. Keep it all in the family, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Um, Michele, is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners that we haven't talked about thus far?
No, I think I would just like to share that this mini course, my intention in the mini course wasn't to make $1 million from it. It's a very low priced item, but it is really to get the word out, because I feel like there's just so many people who have no idea. A lot of times people say, "Oh, what do I care? I'm going to be dead. I mean, I don't care." Well, but you kind of do care. I mean, you don't want to leave your children or your family with a mess.
Yeah.
And maybe you didn't really like that cousin, and now all of a sudden that cousin is going to get some of your estate because you didn't have a will. So I think, I really feel like this mini course is to help people have that general understanding, so that they don't feel like it's as overwhelming or as scary, quote unquote, as some people think. And then also just to get people to start thinking about it. Like, hey, I had a client the other day, she's 90 years old and never did any estate planning documents.
Really?
Yeah. So it is needed, definitely. So like I said, I can only help people in Ohio as far as preparing the documents. So this is my way to reach other people outside of Ohio and just help make the process a little more understandable and less concerning for them.
Kudos to you, Michele. Really.
Thank you.
Also, as I understand, in addition to the course, the mini course, you also have an estate planning checklist. Is that correct? That you can send out to people?
Yes, I have created a estate planning checklist that anybody can get for free. I'll have my email address, or the email that you can send a note to me, and I will send you the estate planning checklist. It actually goes through a lot of what I talked about, but in more just a simplified form, just so you can say, oh, yes, I do. I have my power of attorney. And oh, yeah, these are the things that I'm going to keep in my firebox. And oh, yeah, this is what I should do, is put this binder together for my children so they know how my bills are paid, or my passwords for my digital assets.
Exactly.
So yes, that is for free for everybody. And then I'll also have in the link below, you can also email me, and with that free handout at the bottom is the link to the mini course. And so then you can go to the mini course and purchase it if you'd like. And for your listeners, I am going to include a 10% discount for the mini course.
Really? Well, thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Awesome.
Hey,
yeah.
It's my goal is to get to as many people as I can.
Well, God bless you. Yeah. So obviously, if our listeners need to get a hold of you, they want to reach out to you. Your phone numbers below the recording here, or the podcast, along with your email, so they can request the complimentary estate planning checklist. And there'll also be a link in there. They go in and if they want to purchase the mini course as well. So
yes, absolutely.
Okay. Michele, it's been great having you on. This was all good material, so I appreciate you. So ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. Please join us next week for another episode of Better Business, Better Life. I'm your host, Terry DuPont. And remember, folks, you will always make more money by saving on taxes than you will ever chasing investment returns. So see you next week.
Thanks, Terry.
This has been the Better Business, Better Life, Building on Your Success podcast. If you have questions about creating tax-free wealth and income, forward-looking tax mitigation, strategic risk mitigation, wealth preservation and legacy planning, and advanced financial management, go to DuPontAdvisory.com or email Terry at DuPontAdvisory.com.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.